Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Naomi back here for another video. I thought today's video we're going to look at two passages, two chapters, and we're going to pull what's in them two chapters together to actually give us a firmer and much better understanding of the significance of the wounds that Christ sustained on the cross. And the wound in particular that we're going to look at is that spear that was said to have been shoved into his side and pierced him, okay? And we absolutely have the allegory to it in our scriptures. And it was a passage that many times I'd hit on it. And I'm like, I'll never understand what that's about. Until just yesterday, when the Spirit just completely showed it to me out of the blue. It's amazing how the Spirit really works with us. You'll be thinking about something and you'll be looking at it and you'll be carrying it and chewing on it and not really realizing that it really is there, and it is there the whole time. And the Spirit says, okay, I'm going to show you what that means. And so the Spirit does. So the passages that we're actually going to put together, and we have a lot going on here like we do in other videos. It's just so much information. We'll just pour through what we can and show you what we can, okay? And so we're going to start in Job 20. It's going to pull us to Isaiah 29. It's going to take us to the verse in Job 30. And we should read Isaiah 54 and update the information on the Golden Gate, Jerusalem, because it actually updated it on the very day that I went in to look at it. I was kind of rehashing some old information that I had, and so I said, well, I better go back and look at the Golden Gate. And on the very day that I pulled it up, there's no such thing as coincidences. It was March 16th, 2019. I pulled this up again on Wikipedia, Golden Gate, Jerusalem, and they had updated that page that very day. And I'm so glad that I went in there. It had to be the Spirit's leading. And so I wrote out the notes that they had updated, so we might get a chance to look at those. Not saying we will, but we might. So let's look at Job 20. All right, and see what we have in it. Therefore, verse 1. Then answered Zophar the Naamathite, and said, therefore do my thoughts cause me to answer, and for this I make haste. I have heard the check of my reproach, and the spirit of my understanding causes me to answer. Knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment? Though his excellency mounts up to the heavens, and his head reaches unto the clouds. Now here we're actually getting an allegory to Babylon, is what you're looking at. And I didn't pull this up. I think it's found in Jeremiah 50 when it speaks of Babylon ascending into the heights. Now they got he, you could easily go she, because it's the wicked whore spirit that we're told ascended into the heavens, because she is the spirit, the whore spirit that man came to exalt in his heart. So it says, though her excellency mounts up to the heavens, and the head reaches unto the clouds, yet he, and we're going to say he here because you get your allegory to Baal. Yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. Well, we understand that the god Baal, I say Baal, but it's Baal, that he was called Lord of Flies, and he was called Lord of Fly because the illusion was that he was a pile of dung. And here we get the allusion to this very fact that these sons who have exalted themselves by exalting the whore spirit in the midst of the body, which is in the second heaven, which is Babylon, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. They which have seen him shall say, where is he? He shall fly away as a dream and shall not be found. Yea, he shall be chased away as a vision of the night. Let's hold on to that verse right now. We're going to go to Isaiah 29 and see what that says. All right. Woe to Ariel, the city where David dwelt. Add ye year to year, let them kill sacrifices. Yet I will distress Ariel, and there shall be heaviness and sorrow, and it shall be unto me as Ariel. And I will camp against thee round about, and will lay siege against thee with a mountain. I will raise forts against thee, and thou shalt be brought down, and shalt speak out of the ground. And thy speech shall be low out of the dust, and thy voice shall be as of one that hath a familiar spirit out of the ground, and thy speech shall whisper out of the dust. We did this verse quite a few videos back. Moreover, the multitude of thy strangers shall be like small dust, and the multitude of the terrible ones shall be as chaff that passes away. Yea, it shall be at an instant suddenly. Thou shalt be visited of the Lord of hosts with thunder, with earthquakes and great noise, with storm and tempest, and the flame of devouring fire. And the multitude of all the nations that fights against Ariel, even all that fight against her in her munition, and that distress her, shall be what? As a dream of a night vision. It'll be like a dream. She says, all those that distress you now, they're going to be like a dream in the night. Now here in Job 20, we get that exact same allusion to these sons of Belial, these sons of darkness, worthlessness. They're of no use. They're like dung. So if we look at what we've been looking at, how it is the daughter Zion's job to birth the body, and actually that comes down to reshaping and remolding the clay so that it will receive the righteous spirit within its midst, as opposed to the whore spirit that fallen Adam exalted into the second heaven, known as daughter Babylon, Lucifer, the whore spirit, many names. But if you look at, you take a piece of clay and you shape it, it holds its mold. But if you take a piece of dung, something that's worthless, that's of no value because it's not going to hold the shape that it needs to hold. It's worthless. It's crap. All it's any good for is to spread on the fields, and that's it. And that's kind of your allegory to what these men are like. These sons of, that's been taught the image of Baal, that men are your gods, are your lords, your master, your husband. They're like dung. Forget about reshaping these ones. Just cut them away, spread them like dung. That's all they're any good for. You can't reshape a piece of dung like clay. Clay, you shape it, you remold it, all right? And that's what these daughters of Zion have to do. So, yet he shall perish, she shall perish, forever like his own dung. They which have seen him shall say, where is he? And he shall fly away as a dream. He'll be like a bad dream in the night. The eye also which saw him, her, shall see him, her no more. Neither shall their place any more behold him, her. His children shall seek to please the poor, and his hands shall restore their goods. They're going to give back what they took. His bones are full of sin of his youth, which shall lie down with him in the dust. The bones is actually an allusion to what causes the body to stand, which is likened to your foundation, which is your spirit. So in this case, the whore spirit. So the wickedness be sweet in his mouth, though he hides it under his tongue. We're talking about the words here that he came to just, he loves the words that the whore spirit's telling him that he's king of everything, he's God of everything, that she's nothing. He loves this. Though he spare it, though he cherishes it. We'll go to a different version here so we get a better understanding. And will not let it go, but keeps it in his mouth. Yet the food in his stomach turns into Cobra's venom inside of him. It's killing him. It's poison. It's wormwood. It's gall. All right? We're coming up on gall. We're coming up on the liver, on the gall here of the poison. Yet his meat in his bowel is turned. It is the gall of asps within him. Yet the food in his stomach turns into Cobra's venom inside of him. Verse 15. He hath swallowed down riches. He swallowed down what doesn't belong to him, according to the other translations here. So he swallows wealth, but must vomit it up. God will force it from his stomach. He has took what doesn't belong, number one, and he's forced to vomit it back up. He shall suck the poison of ass, the viper's tongue shall slay him. He will suck the poison of cobras, a viper's fang will kill him. And indeed, the whore spirit's poison doctrines will indeed cause death. That's what we're looking at. He shall not see the rivers, the floods, the brooks of honey and butter. That will be labored, that which he labored for shall he restore, and he shall not swallow it down. According to his substance shall the restitution be made, and he shall not rejoice therein. For he oppressed and abandoned the poor, and he seized a house he did not build. So what house are we looking at here? Well, we're looking actually at the house that originally was the allegory, actually, to Judah, because Christ represents the tabernacle in Israel, in Judah. And these daughters of Israel, the northern kingdom, had a birthright wherein they dwelt on Mount Zion, and there they made the rules that governed the house. So the house in actuality belonged to the daughters. So he oppressed and he abandoned the poor, and he seized the house that he did not build. This takes us back to actually what King Solomon did to the daughters of Zion. When he took the walls, took the wall of his father David, it tells us. This takes us back to our study in the Key of David. And how he took those breaches in the wall, as it's called. And it's interesting because the world is full of walls now. You got walls in your face everywhere. You got Trump building a wall. You got the walls in Israel. You got walls everywhere. And yet this is exactly what the breach comes down to and what took place. And you saw that in our study on the Key of David. When Solomon took these breaches, as the Bible calls them, in the wall of David, which are actually gates that David left open for the righteous daughters of Zion so that they could pass back and through from their lands of heritage that they dwelt in and back to the Mount Zion, where the law would issue from, where they would make these laws that would govern the body. They were laws of equity. They were fair laws. But what Solomon did when he took power is he tore down these houses that these daughters of Zion dwelt in on the wall, it says. And so you have all these allegories at play. And he tore them down and he daubs the wall up. He closes it off is what he does. And so we see that passage in, where is it? Isaiah 28, I think. It says, so that you will be called the restorer of the breach, the repairer of the breach. And so what he did is he allowed the Holy Spirit in. And what the Key of David represents is the righteous daughters that were shut out of their rightful birthright, this body to govern it. So here we have, he must return, or for he oppressed and abandoned the poor, he seized a house he did not build. So the house he did not build was the daughter Zion's house. He did not build it. They built it. Women birth children. Their bodies form the body. No man's body does this. And his hand sure don't do it. I can tell you that. Because his appetite is never satisfied. He does not let anything he desires escape. Nothing is left for him to consume. Therefore his prosperity will not last. And at the height of his success, distress will come to him. The full weight of misery will crush him. Now that took me back to my dream where I did a video on bales and foxes. All right? And it says, you who dealt treacherously and unfaithfully with those daughters of Zion. It says, when you're done dealing out your treachery, and here, you have come to the height of your success, then distress is going to come upon you. And they're fully legal under the laws of heaven to do what they are appointed to do. And so, which is to kick the Holy Spirit out of the body, to restore the breach that was created by fallen Adam and the Holy Spirit. Verse 23, when he fills his stomach, God will send her burning anger against him, raining it down on him and her while he is eating, while she is eating. He shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. This is where we're going to get our allegory to the cross of Christ, okay? that Christ died on this cross and he received this exact blow to his body that is spoken of here of the wicked man, okay? So we have to understand that Christ was the sacrifice and he died as a fallen Adam is what he died. He took all the sins upon him. And it says, if he flees from an iron weapon, an arrow from a bronze bow will pierce him. 25. He pulls it out of his body. He draws, it is drawn and cometh out of the body, yea, the glittering sword cometh out of his gall. Terrors are upon him. So it says in some translation here, it will give you liver and some will give you gallbladder. Well, the liver and the gallbladder are interconnected, all right? And they are on the right side of the body. Now, when I got reading the notes of where Christ's side was pierced on the cross, when that soldier reached that spear up and struck it into his side, they try to say it pierced his heart, right? No, because if you get reading the notes on the heart is slightly to the left of the body. And yet most are in agreement that this piercing of his side took place on the right side when you get studying your notes, which is exactly the location of where the liver and the gallbladder would be. Now, if we understand the purpose of the liver and the gallbladder, and I'm just going to skim over it, it has a lot to it, but that's where the toxins of the body go, and they're responsible. Actually, from what I understand, I wrote notes down now. I don't know if I can actually understand what I wrote. But basically, the gallbladder holds the gall that is produced by the liver. So the gallbladder holds all of that gall that the liver produces so that it in turn can go through, and I forget all the details. But we know that that is an area of where the poisons of the body dwell. So it's interesting here, he's dying on the cross as fallen Adam is actually what we're kind of looking at. And that pierce comes up and it pierces him in his liver, his gallbladder area. And it speaks of the poison of the cobra's venom, right? It speaks of the gall of it. And so here we're looking at symbology, actually a ritual playing out on the cross when that soldier stuck that spear in the Savior's side on the cross, and all that gall ran out. It was an allusion to the fallen Adam allowing all this poison doctrine to come out of him, and it was flowing out of it. It says blood and water gushed out, but it's the poison that was rushing out of fallen Adam that he'd allowed himself to be poisoned with. That fallen theology by the Holy Spirit. And so here we're left with a lump of clay after the death of Christ on the cross. And what was the purpose? So that he could be resurrected to newness of life by the righteous Spirit, by God. All right? And therein is your new image of our new Adam. All right? But we have that allegory here. This is just amazing when you get looking at it. I was just wowed by it. Because I had read this passage before in the book of Job, and I'm like, what are you talking about? You know? But it's talking about the death of fallen Adam here. And it's interesting that it strikes at the gall, at the liver, at the part that carries the poison in the body. And it's all talking about the poison and the venom of that Holy Spirit, of that honey that lies under his tongue, that he will not let it go. It's poisoning his body. It's killing him, right? And then we have that spear from that soldier piercing Christ in that exact area. And that gall and that poison is coming out. She says, I'm going to force it out of him. And so that's an allusion to what the Spirit is actually doing here. If he flees from an iron weapon, an arrow from a bronze bow will pierce him. He pulls it out of his back, it says, out of his body. The flashing tip out of his liver, some will say out of his gallbladder, and terrors have come upon him. Fear. Total darkness is reserved for his treasures. A fire unfanned by human hands will consume him. It will feed on what is left in his tent. The heavens will expose his iniquity, and the earth will rise up against him. The possessions in his house will be removed, flowing away on the day of God's wrath, anger. This is the wicked man's lot from God, the inheritance God ordained for him. Okay, so in that we see the allegory and the allusion to Christ's sacrifice on the cross, right? So he bore the sins of fallen Adam. And so we see that allegory of the spear piercing him in his side, and that gall, that poison flowing out of him. It was not his heart that was pierced. This is clearly indicating it was on his right side that he was pierced, and likely it was his liver, gallbladder area where the poisons of the body tend to be, as we know. And so that flows out of the fallen Adam. He dies, and it is the righteous spirit that must resurrect him. All right? So in effect, it's the reshaping. All right? The rebirthing of Adam is what we're looking at. So let's continue on in Isaiah 29. We had hit that passage in Job 30 where it's going to be like a bad dream. And going to pass away like a dream in the night. So we'll start at verse 7 in Isaiah 29. And the multitude of all the nations that fights against Ariel, even all that fight against her in a monition, and that distress her, shall be as a dream of a night vision. It shall even be as when an hungry man dreameth, and behold, he eateth, but he waketh, and his soul is empty. Or as when a thirsty man dreameth, and behold, he drinketh, but he awaketh, and behold, he is faint, and his soul hath appetite. So shall the multitude of all the nations be that fight against Mount Zion. Stay yourselves and wonder. Cry ye out and cry. They are drunken, but not with wine. They stagger, but not with strong drink. For the Lord has poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep, and hath closed your eyes. The prophets and your rulers and the seers had she covered. For you, the entire vision will be like words of a sealed document. It's like the words of a book that is sealed. The book that the words are actually sealed in is the Bible. We're misinterpreting it because we're allowing the sons of Baal to interpret it for us. No, we were asleep. These daughters of Zion were asleep, and now they're awaking. And it says that this is like a sealed book. It's like a sealed document, which men deliver to one that is learned, saying, read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I cannot, for it is sealed. And you know what? I heard that a lot of the time. Well, there's just some things we're never going to know in there. We just can't understand them. And the book is delivered to him that is not learned, saying, read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I am not learned. So they have all excuses why they can't understand it. They'll say, well, you know, I'm not smart enough to understand it. I'm not learned. I don't get this. I will never know. But you're never going to know if you don't determine to allow the Spirit to show it to you. So verse 13, wherefore the Lord saith, for as much as this people draw near me with their mouth, and with their lips they do honor me, and how many do, but they don't really know the Spirit, she. Christ's Spirit, daughter Zion, they don't know her, because they removed her. And certainly in the men of Baal's teachings, they made a concerted effort to remove her understanding out of the Scriptures. They do not want you understanding her part in this. But have removed their hearts far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the precept of men. That's right. It's by vain traditions. And their reverence for me consists of traditions learned by rote. The men teach the men, who teach the men, who teach the men, who teaches all us wicked women that we can't be trusted. You know, it's just taught by rote. They don't really know who the Lord is. She. They have forgotten about her. They have tried to cover her over by lies, handful by handful. Those foxes, those men of Baal, have tried to remove your rightful position of where you, as the righteous daughters of Zion, belong, which is governing the body through righteous laws. That's where her position always was. And she was called the key of David. She's the government, the way that God rules. Therefore, behold, I will proceed to do a marvelous work among this people, even a marvelous work and a wonder. For the wisdom of their wise men shall perish, and the understanding of their prudent men shall be hid. It's time for the daughters of Zion, represented as the Spirit reborn in the earth, to begin to reshape the clay and to teach it what they were always created and brought into existence to do. Woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from the Lord, and their works are in the dark, and they say, who seeth us, and who knoweth us? So it's taking us back to when they began to start these laws, and we've studied how this was done, how these men of Baal did this. They used violence under the laws that they were creating. They were writing them out, and they were using it to really take the daughters of Zion out of their rightful position of power, out of their rightful birthright. Their position is a birthright, and only women can hold this. Who seeth us and who knoweth us? And they do. The men hide what they do. And Lucifer, what does Lucifer say? What does daughter Babylon say in Isaiah 47? Horror spirits protect it within the heart of man. Nobody's seen her, but that's exactly where she is. She says, no one sees me. They're such good liars. 16, surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. For shall the work say of her that made it, she made me not? Or shall the thing framed say of her that framed it, she had no understanding? Well, I know I was told that by men. Women just don't possess the understanding that men do. This is a turning of upside down of things. Because in this very creation, we are shown who births the body. It is woman, representing the Spirit, and her name is God as well in the earth. She is actually the second half of the Messianic Godhead, which everybody is in denying about and keeps saying, he. No, it's she. That's why when she comes on scene as Christ's manifested Spirit in this world to deliver the body, to deliver spiritual Israel, that the world is gonna do a double take and go, I ain't falling for that. Because your strong delusion is that your deliverer is a male, and it is not. Your deliverer of children is female, not male. And so we're coming up on this strong delusion. Now, verse 17, is it not yet a very little while, and Lebanon shall be turned into a fruitful field, and the fruitful field shall be esteemed as a forest. Indeed, we're looking at the daughters of Zion coming back into existence. And in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. Indeed, they're going to begin to see the truth, and it's going to take a great shaking and a great deal of tribulation for them to actually understand the truth. The meek also shall increase their joy in the Lord, and the poor among people shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. That's daughter Zion. For the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. We're beginning to show the shaping of the body here that make a woman, not a man. They made the woman the liar here. That make a woman an offender for a word. They did it through the word. They cause women to be the great liars, the great deceivers in the word. And lay a snare for her that reproveth in the gate. This was her job. And turn aside the just for a thing of naught. This is what they did under the law. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, who redeemed Abraham, Sarah, concerning the house of Israel. Now watch this. I love this verse here. Israel, not Jacob. Israel shall not now be ashamed, neither shall her face now wax pale. Why is that word pale so cool here? Because Israel's finally going to birth, or the daughter Zion is finally going to birth what she was supposed to from the very beginning. But because of the snares, because of the lies that got told and got handed around by those men of Baal, by men today who have fallen into their own snares, that men are gods, men are the image of God, women are not, men are, all right? They have fell into their own snares thinking that they're going to deliver the burden. No. And then we find that verse where it says, we have been with child. We're talking about daughter Zion here. We have, as it were, brought forth when? False doctrine. All right? So, here, Israel shall not now be ashamed, neither shall her face now wax pale. All right? Why do I like that? Go to Jeremiah 30. What does it say? Ask now and see if a male can give birth. This is Jeremiah 30, verse 6. Why do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in childbirth? And why have all faces turned pale? Because they can't deliver the burden. Here, her face, Israel's face, she has no more anything to be ashamed about. Her face is no longer waxed pale because she has finally delivered the truthful doctrine of the body that is going to actually deliver the body, rebirth the body. But when she seeketh, or he seeketh his children, the work of mine hands in the midst of him, they shall sanctify my name, and sanctify the Holy One of Israel, and shall fear the God of Israel. That's daughter Zion. That's your mountain. That's your rulers. That's your she-goats, not he-goats. We're ruled by he-goats now. That's wrong. It's your she-goats that's your mountain of rulers. Your Mount Zion, daughter Zion, is your rightful ruler of the body. Verse 24. Now watch this. They also that erred in spirit shall come to understand, and they that murmured shall learn doctrine. See, we have it coming back here. Israel's face is no longer waxed pale. She's finally delivered what she was supposed to do, and that is the truth, the truthful doctrine, not empty doctrines, not vain doctrines that's all about the law, and exalting a he as God. She's finally delivered what she was supposed to deliver. And it says, those who err in mind will know the truth, and those who criticize will accept instruction. Finally, they're going to have to do this, right? In order to live. Okay. So we had that. What else did we want to look at? Alrighty. You know what? Something that we should do is, or you should do, we should do. It would be interesting if you have the time to go in and pull up some of your words on your interlinear and look at what some of them means. It's really fascinating because it gives you such a much deeper understanding of things. Yeah. Okay, so we talked about all this. Okay. So let's look at another passage I have pulled up, and then we're going to go to the Golden Gate. Okay. So Isaiah 54, future blessings for the daughter Zion. It says, verse 1, sing, O barren, thou that didst not break forth into singing, and cry aloud, thou that didst not travail with child. Excuse me. For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married wife. Well, the married wife was the whore spirit, daughter Babylon, that fallen Adam was in covenant with to make a whole bunch of laws that subjugates women, righteous daughters, righteous sons under the law. Enlarge the tent, place of thy tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of thine habitation. Spare not, lengthen thy cords, and strengthen thy stakes. We get this understanding also of what's going on in Isaiah 49 when it's pertaining to the enlargement of daughter Zion's birthright. All right? Verse 3, for thou shalt break forth on the right hand and on the left, and thy seed shall inherit the Gentiles, and make the desolate cities to be inhabited. And she does. These daughters of Zion are going to inhabit the Gentiles. That's your land not inhabited. They're going to inherit them. Because that's the enlarging of the birthright that we spoke on in Isaiah 49. Verse 4, fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed, neither be thou confounded, for thou shalt not be put to shame. For thou shalt forget the shame of thy youth, and shalt not remember the reproach of thy widowhood anymore. The disgrace of being rejected. All right? She was the rejected woman. She's the desolate woman who fallen Adam rejected out of her rightful place and put the whore spirit in there. For thy maker is thine husband. No, he ain't. Man don't make woman. He never did. He never could. This creation proves who makes and shapes the body. It is the woman. And the Spirit says, which is mother, she says, I stretch out the heavens like a tent, and I dwell in them. That is the Spirit, Mother Yahweh. She created the Father to dwell within the Father. Her and her glory, her children. She does this. And thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, the God of the whole earth, shall she be called. For the Lord hath called thee as a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit, and a wife of youth, when thou was refused. And she was refused by fallen Adam. For a small moment have I forsaken thee, but with great mercies will I gather thee. This is mother speaking. This is no man speaking. No man God speaking. This is the Spirit who creates life. And we are shown in this very creation the example that God shows us. In a little wrath I hid my face from thee for a moment, but with everlasting kindness will I have mercy on thee, saith the Lord thy Redeemer. Let's go down here. Though the mountains move and the hills shake, my love will not be removed from you, and my covenant of peace will not be shaken, says the Lord, your compassionate Lord, our great comforter, our mother spirit. Poor Jerusalem, O thou afflicted, tossed with tempest, and not comforted. Behold, I will lay thy stones with fair colors, and lay thy foundation with sapphires. And I will make thy windows of agates, and thy gates of carbuncles, and all thy borders of pleasant stones. And all thy children shall be taught of the Lord, and great shall be the peace of thy children. And you, in righteousness shalt thou be established. Thou shalt be far from oppression, for thou shalt not fear, and from terror, for it shall come not near thee. Behold, they shall surely gather together, but not by me. Whosoever shall gather together against thee shall fall for thy sake. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for the work, and I have created the waster to destroy. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants. That's your branch. That's the daughters of Zion. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is of me, saith the Lord. That's Mother Jerusalem from above. Now, let's go to the Golden Gate and to the updates that we have in that. I want to see how long my video is getting here. Okay. So we're going to go. And this update just occurred on March 16th, which was on the very day that I had pulled it up to just go look at some more notes. I just wanted to touch base with it again. And it was amazing on the update. Because this is the new that was added to this note. It was on Wikipedia, called the Golden Gate, Jerusalem. It's called the Lily Gate. We've talked about the covenant of the lilies, which is the daughter Zion's covenant. So they find many ways to mask the name of it, because they don't want you to see a feminine as a singular individual that's going to marry one man. They like to keep this polygamous crazy idea alive because it empowers men, the image of Baal. It tickles their ears, that honey in their mouth that they don't want to spit out, that's poisoning them. But that's okay, because the Bible's telling us what's going to happen here. Where's the notes that I took down? Okay, so it's under the title, The Sealing of the Gate. That's where the new notes were updated. Okay, and this is what it says. I'll just read it briefly, but it is found on Wikipedia. Golden Gate, Jerusalem. And this is what it says. This was what was added that I didn't have until March 16th. The gate was sealed by Israeli authorities in 2003 because the group managing the area had ties to Hamas. The gate was kept closed in order to stop illegal construction work there by the Islamic Waqf. I don't know how to say that. Israeli officials believe the work led to the destruction of antiquities from the periods of Jewish presence in the area. Now, in February of 2019, the interior of the gate was reopened for Muslim worshippers from the Temple Mount. However, the gate itself still remains sealed. All right. Now, what I began to postulate on this gate, which we know as the Lily Gate, the Mercy Gate, the gate that the divine presence is said to appear through, I speculated on a few things that most people wouldn't bother speculating on. And I'm going to take you to it in a minute here. We'll just finish the other portion of the notes here that had to be updated. All right. All right. This one was found under early history. And this is the one I really want to read. All right. So where was that? And it's just this last sentence here that was added that I did not have in my notes. Actually, none of this was in my copy that I had. So I had to add it, and this was the early history, but it was this sentence that absolutely blew my mind, because this is what I've been talking about, and this was not there when I did my research like a year ago. This gate was not used by the masses to enter the Temple Mount, but was reserved only for the high priest and all those that aided him when taking out, guess what? The red heifer or the scapegoat on the Day of Atonement. And we've been talking about the red heifer and the scapegoat. The scapegoat is the daughter Zion, recognized as a she-goat in your Abrahamic Sarah covenant that they all gloss over, that the men of Baal glossed over, hid, buried in your text, that unless you're doing a great deal of research in your homework, you're not going to find them. Red heifer, that's Israel, a representation of Israel as a sacrifice. All right, we come to know that when she's in a rightful position of power, she moves like the behemoth. She's powerful. None can take her on. All right, that was one I wanted to look at. Now, because I knew that this gate was called a two-leaved gate, and I knew that there was a passage in the scriptures that spoke of a two-leaved gate, all right, it was distinct in its position in the Bible. And the reason why I question is because it didn't add up in the context. It just did not make sense to me. And we're going to go to Isaiah chapter, I believe it's 43. You see here. I might have the wrong chapter again. Okay. Okay. Okay, we're going to get there. Alright, so let me go to my notes, because I'm not finding the verse I want to find here. Okay, but this has to do with Cyrus, right? And we know what history says. History states that there was this two-leaved gate under this great wall that he had paid a soldier on the inside to open at the right time to allow his soldiers through, right? That's what history records. I'm just telling you it rough. It was much more detailed than that. But we're looking at, okay, so I'm in the wrong chapter, number 1. That's why I'm having trouble finding it. Right here, chapter 45, Isaiah 45. It says, God commissioned Cyrus. Well, I had questions on this, because when you start reading Isaiah 40 to Isaiah 45, it's speaking of the servant. It is speaking of witnesses. It's speaking of the daughter Zion in its context. That's what you're getting in your understanding when you begin to understand how they buried the truth in the scriptures. And I couldn't understand why they would stick a name Cyrus in there. It just didn't make sense. Yes, we know history tells of a man, this great man named Cyrus, who conquered, and God used him, and it still didn't make sense to me. 45, thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, to her anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden. Now she says to her witness, to her servant, in 42, I think, Isaiah 42, she says, I will hold thy hand. I will make you strong. And here we have, thus saith the Lord to her anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden to subdue nations before her, not him. And I will loose the loins of kings, to open before her the two-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut. We're actually looking at the entrance of the divine glory, I think. We're not looking at no man named Cyrus. We're looking at possibly a twofold prophecy, all right? Excuse me. And while he was the first part of the prophecy, there's an overlay of the spiritual prophecy of that divine glory. All right? Now, his name means the enthroned one. All right? And this is where it begins to add up. Because when you get doing your homework in the Bible, you begin to understand that they took names out where they should have left the names in and would translate what that name means. And in other places where it wasn't a name, they would stick a name in there and make it look like it was a name. So Cyrus's name means the enthroned one. That's what it means. So thus saith the Lord to her anointed, to her enthroned one. This is the divine glory she's speaking to, that's going to march through the two-leaved gate that shall not be shut, which is called the lily gate, which has to do with your daughters of Zion, who is the divine glory manifested here on earth as Christ's Spirit, which is sent here to rule, to govern the nations. So here this two-leaved gate is closed up, and it says it awaits the arrival of the anointed Messiah, that is daughter Zion. It is awaiting her arrival, and she is the manifested Spirit of Christ. That's who she is. She is the enthroned one. That's who she is. So it says, and I will loose the loins of kings. She says she's going to strike through kings in the day of her wrath. And they will open before her the two-leaved gates. And the gates shall not be shut. I will go before thee and make the crooked places straight. We're talking about the righteous Spirit of Christ manifested in the earth. I will break in pieces the gates of brass and cut in sunder the bars of iron. Again, we're looking at the daughters of Zion threshing. It speaks of brass and iron, her horns, her hooves. And I will give thee the treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places, that thou mayest know the Lord, that I, the Lord, which called thee by thy name, am the God of Israel. So we're looking at daughters of Zion being called forth. For Jacob, or Israel my servant's sake, and Israel mine elect, I have even called thee by thy name. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me. I have strengthened you, that they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is none beside me. I am the Lord, and there is none else. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Drop down ye heavens from above, and let the skies pour down righteousness. Let the earth open, and let them bring forth salvation, and let righteousness spring up together. I, the Lord, have created it. So that was a speculation. All right. Now, have I done everything I wanted to do? I think I have. And I think I am running out of time. I actually didn't think I'd get this. Yeah. Okay, well, we're not doing too bad. We're at 49 minutes. I think we covered what we needed to cover today. Some more things to look at. I was really fascinated by the Golden Gate. I was really fascinated by the liver and the gall, which then just kind of, it came in my mind, well, was not Christ pierced on the right side? And so you have some conflict in that. Some says he was pierced in his heart. and yet you get most saying it was his right side that he was pierced on. Well, your heart is to the left and to the center behind your breastbone. And if he was pierced in the side, that's not your heart. So there you have it. There's a video for the few who's watching me to watch and maybe get something out of it, something helpful, I hope, as we continue to build on this theology that the Spirit has been showing me. And I know it is the Spirit. There's no other way this could be lining up the way that it lines up, because I'm just not that smart. So I hope you watch it. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you share it. I thank all who subscribed, all who likes. And I hope you have a blessed day. Hope the Lord blesses you amply, manifold. And I hope you have a really nice